we're going to discuss our experiencing. Are you ready for a new track?
It could be.
Okay, let's try that again.
Hang on. Wait. The tip of the tongue, the teeth of the lips.
Red, yellow, red, yellow.
Yeah. Oh. All right, you're good.
This episode of Retro Rewind is brought to you, Nintendo Dad Patreon supporters, because you are freaking awesome and we love you. And on this week's episode, we're going to be discussing our experience of playing Earthbound, a game that you selected for the Super NES. And we played it. And we like it. Cue the music, Zach!
Hello, this is Retro Rewind. Provided to you by Nintendo Dads.
Patreon.com.
This is Retro Rewind, episode number, what is this, episode 5?
Five, yep.
Yep, episode 5. Talking all about Earthbound. If you haven't recognized that music, by the way, that's the hotel music, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, hotel music, so we're talking about Earthbound. Mother 2, as it's known in the motherland.
The motherland.
In Japan, where it was created. Of course, my name's Zach Erickson. I guess I need to introduce myself. That's Justin Masson. I almost said Justin Waldeck.
I know. That was interesting.
Justin Masson and Jesse Waldeck from VGTribune.com. What's going on tonight?
The ever confused one.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're keeping it both real and fresh today. Fresh like fuzzy pickles fresh. What?
Well played, good sir.
Thank you.
Stay fresh.
Yeah, stay fresh, fuzzy pickles. Which just doesn't sound fresh at all.
No,
it does not.
Sounds like a horrible
It sounds
idea.
like the opposite of fresh.
Okay, just real quick. Does the fuzzy... We're going to have this conversation as well about how much Retro Rewind we end up playing for Retro Rewind episodes in a minute. But does the fuzzy pickle thing ever pay off? Or is it literally like, is there like a thing in the game of like screenshots, or is it literally just he just shows up randomly for no reason?
I don't know. I would assume at the end it pays off in some kind of like picture montage, but I don't really know.
Like in the end credits?
I would hope.
I'm going to Google this.
I'm going to tell you right now, if he does it, I'd be super annoyed.
Does the fuzzy pickles
ever pay off?
You're going
to get some really weird Google search engine stuff.
I'm going to hope my
safe filters
on. Or I'm just going to put Earthbound at the end.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The first picture, spoilers, the whole game. Does anybody here ever use? No. I got nothing. Well, that was good.
No?
I think it's a no. Anyway. So that is Earthbound. See you next week, everybody. No. So, yeah, let's talk for a quick second, guys. We talked about this in the pre-show. And just to kind of set expectations, I didn't get nearly as far into this game this month as I wanted to. And I kind of talked about how I started playing this, and then I went down the rabbit hole of Mother 3, which is, I kind of definitely suffered from the sort of having played the sequel going back to a previous game. So I did play quite a bit of Mother 3 as well, which I'll try not to talk too much about that today, but and we'll talk about just the Mother series as a whole as well. But yeah, this Justin, you I think are the farthest of anything. The tricky thing about Retro Rewind is I'm not really the kind of person to complete a lot of video games anyways. And so for me to actually I feel like I've played enough to have a basic sort of understanding of the game and be able to talk intelligently about it. But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts, Justin? Justin, what do you think?
In relation to the game or being able to play?
Just in general, yeah. But
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I kind of mentioned it in the beginning of March when we started playing this. This was a game that I never played at all, ever. Much kind of like my experience with Pokemon, but I do distinctly remember seeing it. Like, I remember seeing the box. I remember seeing the box with a strategy guide. I remember seeing, like, a very high price tag on it. But none of my friends played Earthbound, so it was never in my wheelhouse. But I knew it, like, later as I became older, and coming back to Nintendo, I began to hear the words come up again, right? Earthbound, mother. Like these are terms that I began to become a little bit more familiar with, and then obviously the exposure to Lucas and Ness in the Smash Brothers, right? So I knew them as characters of Nintendo, but I couldn't tell you what they were from, what they did, other than the fact that that kid's got a red baseball hat and a baseball cap and a bat. I don't really know what else he does. And Ness, gee, that sounds like it's a play on the Ness system. But those are kind of my experience with it. But what I discovered going into this game is how much I love this game. Yeah. This is one of the, I would put this in the top 5 best Super Nintendo games ever. I think this is tremendous. There is a storytelling to this. There is a uniqueness to it. I love the fact, I was talking about it actually in the voiceover work for the Retro Rewind history of video that we do. But I love the fact that it's a fantasy, it's an RPG game, but it's not set in what would be traditional RPG settings. And what I mean by that is you're not in a dungeon, it's not a fantasy, it's not space, it's America, right? Basically,
like small town America, kind of out of the eyes of the producer, right? Their own version, Etoy, I believe, Etoy's version of small town America. Right. And I thought that was and I think in that, especially as a North American, in North American audiences, there's a familiarity to the game, but there's also a very foreign aspect to it. I don't mean foreign like Japanese influence, but even as you're going through the communities, things just don't quite feel right. Things feel a little bit not quite North American, but yet I'm North American, so I don't really kind of get it. But I thought it was
never see your dad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to
commentary right there.
Yeah, I don't even want to dive into this whole Zach psychoanalyzing me and everything, but like that whole contact of the dad only being a voice in the phone. Growing up, my dad was only a voice in the phone because I was separated from my father, right? So there was a lot of like emotional things in that. And then there's like, statements of the dad saying like, "Oh, go see your mom. She'll always take care of you. A good mother does." Right? And like those kind of statements, like it's kind of like the game's impression or the game pushing onto us what they believe was impressions of society and what something should be, right? Whether it's the dad very busy at work and never there with a kid, or whether it's how your mom should act and treat you, and this kind of loving like, "Oh, here's a piece of pizza and just go to bed." Like there is a reverence and a innocence and a emotional depth to the story that in this game that when creating it, I wonder if, sure, things are sort of intentional, but I struggle to think that somewhere in all of this, that was the direct point of how the game was going to be created, but rather it came through this beautiful transformation to become this, because it was very difficult, right? Like it got translated from, it was in Japan originally, got translated to North America. In North America, actually, about halfway through it, they actually canceled, like changed writers, and they started using a different writer to do it as well, because it got moved to another project. So it like swapped hands various times before actually getting localized in North America to be able to publish it. And I think in that, this story, this thing evolved and grew. But it is just a tremendous. We've had this conversation, and I know I've been ranting here for almost 10 minutes. We've had this conversation.
Like 4.
Sorry, it's only like 4. Okay, I speak fast.
That's fine.
But we've had this conversation about video games as art, and what a video game does to you. Right? We define art, television, physical art, media, whatever it is, as something that emotionally draws at you, and this game does exactly that. This game has an amazing, beautiful story with well-developed characters, a good social commentary, and it's just a thing of absolute beauty.
Yeah. Well, and we kind of talked about this last, or when we on the show a while ago, but there is something about the Mother series as a whole that it just has heart, right? Where it is very unapologetically sincere and naive and in like the best possible way, where it's got this wonder from a child's perspective And I guess it's not really afraid to. And again, I I think that the Mother 3 even goes further with on the emotional beats, but yeah, it is not afraid to really explore what does it mean to be a child, what does it mean to to see the world from a child's eyes too, right? Where you're not given any context from the game about, like the cultists, right, that are in Tucson, or the happy, what's the town, the Happy Village or whatever. They're a freaking cult. There's a town full of like crazy, basically the Ku Klux Klan in blue, and you must be happy all the time, and this and that, and all like it's from a kid's perspective all the entire time, and you don't really get those crazy adult conversations, but it's all there and it's implied, and it's and there were several times in this game where I was like, oh, they're really going here, right? You know what I mean? And like where they're starting to touch on themes that they never go all the way, but they give you just enough to say, yeah, you know what we're talking about, right? It's really interesting, and I really love the Mother series for that, for being able to touch on those themes and give just enough to be like, wow, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, I really love that about it. As far as the mechanics go, I love the psychedelic backgrounds,
Sure, yeah.
right? Like that's just something that for me initially I was like, oh, what is this? It kind of turned me off, and then I kind of over time really learned to love and appreciate them. And the music in the game too is just great. Both of those are awesome. And I guess the other thing that the first time it happened to me, I was like, wait, what? That's amazing. Is how it's not random battles. It's, the enemies will rush up to you, but as you out level them, they will, enemies will run away from you, and if you run up, or if they do attack you or you hit them or something and it instigates a battle, it doesn't even take you to the battle screen. It'll just say you win, and won't even force you to fight it. It'll just you'll automatically win without even doing anything. So I really like those sort of battle quirks, the different aspects of the battle system. But yeah, Jesse, what about you, man? How do you feel about Earthbound?
Well, what I played of it, I enjoyed. The problem is I really haven't gotten very far in it. I bought Earthbound a few years ago on Wii U, and that was my second attempt at playing it. The first one being when I rented it as a kid, when it was as a kid, I was in college probably, but I don't remember getting very far into it then, but this third playthrough on the 3DS, I didn't get very far at all, and it kind of really frustrated me, and that's why I didn't put more time into trying to get harder. Further,
what was it that was frustrating?
Yeah, just that first hang up where the biker gang in the first city, where I had the options of trying to fight them. If I could get them single, I could kill them. But if they doubled on me, I didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
Or to backtrack into the area north of the city and do those grindy insta kill battles that aren't very fun.
Mm-hmm.
So do you even get experience for those? If you do, it's so small, is it worth it?
Well, it's like one HP, right? Like
But you still needed 60 experience to get to the next level anyway. So I thought.
Yeah.
So either way, I was butting my head, and if I had more time, I probably would have put more effort into it. But this month is just also a bad month in general.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, to your point, that was one thing that this game is particularly rough, is the grinding. In that, like I specifically remember going from the first town to the second town. This is where it really bogged down, and I had to really push through it in order to get past it. But there was a lot of basically just just keep fighting enemies until you actually manage to defeat one and then get some experience and then keep going. Like, it was pretty grindy for a while there, and it was a little bit rough to push through that, but more grindy than I expected, and more grindy than I would like. But uh, another thing that was interesting is that when this game was released, it came with a full guide, right? Which you can still find online. You can access it from the 3DS menu. On Nintendo's website, they've got the full guide there that was included in the game. But
I didn't even know it was included in the 3DS game.
Well, I mean, like through the browser at least.
Through the browser. Because I know when it was released on the Wii U, Nintendo posted, advertised, here's a link to that PDF.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's still there or not, but I didn't even think about looking there.
Yeah, it's still there. So I don't know. It's interesting though. It's fun, but you do have to I couldn't get through the game without that guide. It was hard. So for no other reason that just they don't really do a great job of telling you where you need to go. And at least for the North American side of things, they are totally fine with people just using the guide. So,
which might have been my problem when I first rented it, because of course it didn't come with the guide.
Yeah. Which I guess is, there's a couple things in it right there. So Jesse, you talked about one of your first experiences playing it was as a teenager, right? So I could not imagine playing this game as a teenager, right? Because I'm thinking of the games that I liked. GoldenEye, right? I liked side-scrolling platformer games. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of meat and potatoes and depth to this game that I can't imagine a young teenager would really want to be diving their teeth into. And I think especially if you weren't provided that strategy guide, how easily you could be frustrated at playing this game. Yeah, so I don't know. There's that kind of shock of it. And I also wonder if you need to provide a strategy guide for a game when they buy it, is the game properly designed?
Yeah, well, I think back then that is not the only game that has ever done that. I specifically remember, again, I didn't ever play this game. I didn't even know who Ness was until my first exposure to Ness was Smash Brothers. So the first Smash 64. But again, being a Sega kid, Phantasy Star 2, exact same thing with that, where it came with a big old manual of exactly what you needed to do in order to get through that game too. So it's not the only game that did that.
So I just looked up when this game was released, and this was released in June of '95. And in comparison, that is 8 months after Final Fantasy III, which is a game I love. That's my one favorite game. So comparing the two, that makes Earthbound really rough. As being the game that comes out last of the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's I don't know. It's still really fun. Here's the thing: is that I feel like the game mechanics, or not the game mechanics, but the game's pacing is just off. I think is really what is it? The pacing, and it doesn't even really bother me that you've got to use a guide, frankly. It's just, and you could figure it out if you didn't have the guide, but it's enough to kind of get you through the hard bits and help you so you don't get stuck, really. But yeah, I don't know. Justin, what do we have from our awesome video? Do we have anything cool? Any cool information from that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of talked about originally the localization of the game and some of the challenges that it had faced there. But one of the very interesting things was that when Itoi actually, he was basically writing commercials. He was doing commercials and jingles. He was working at Nintendo. He had this idea. He approached the president at the time about the game and is like, "Hey, I'd like to do this game." And the president was so impressed with kind of his work. He's like, "Yeah, okay, let's do this thing." But he actually pitched the game to Miyamoto. And I guess Miyamoto's feedback to him was so harsh that he ended up crying. So that was a bit of a tough go at it. But I guess over time, Itoi and Miyamoto worked together And I guess through kind of a mentoring and producing, and Miyamoto, as I recall, is actually credited as producer on the game. Came to really like the game and is actually quoted as saying it was his very first RPG he ever finished. So I thought that was quite cool. Obviously, when it came over to North America, believe it or not, actually North America, they spent a lot of money in actually the advertisement for this game. I think somewhere around $4 million, I think. So they actually spent a lot of money in the advertising for it, and it actually didn't do quite as well as they wanted it to. And they kind of defined about whether that was because of the fact that the RPGs, just people weren't moving them, they weren't as interested, they were more interested in 2D platformers, but it just didn't quite sell the way it wanted to. It really later in the late 90s kind of is when it began to build up some of its cult following and cult classics that we've seen it now become. There was obviously also talk of Earthbound Beginnings, or Mother 2, as it was called, scheduled to be called, was originally kind of developed and then scrapped and canceled, and then was finally published out in Japan, but never came over to North America. Now, this game later was ported over, and we know it as Earthbound Beginnings. Now, interestingly enough, there's really no sequential timeline in relation to that either.
That's
So,
just Mother, not Mother 2.
yeah, sorry, yeah, just Mother. I apologize. Thanks for that.
Kind of like it's kind of like Final Fantasy in that sense, where it's like it's the same series but totally different, like universe or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah, this is a game that, I mean, not as a huge shock. This game, and I don't really know if there's any other game on especially the Nintendo generation or a Nintendo system, the platform, that has such a cult following, like a massive, massive cult following for. And I mean, yes, like everyone knows, Mario and Zelda and these big characters, but this one, there is this kind of, like, you talk about Earthbound and you talk about Mother, people are connected with it. There's a deep, resonant connection with it. And even next week on May 11th, when we have Steve from the Mother to Earth Kickstarter, they're going to talk about this kind of connection that they have to the Earthbound and Mother franchise. There's something just primal, very primal about Earthbound that people are so passionate about. And obviously, this is kind of why we always talk about, like, when is Mother 3 coming to North America, right? Because it's just such a classic.
so good, dude. Mother 3, and that's the thing, is that Mother 3 makes some really great strides that improve the Earthbound formula. Just to speak real quickly, I think the pacing is a lot better in Mother 3, where there's a lot less grindiness. Are there hot springs in this one? There's not, is there?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
There's this great mechanic in Mother 3 where there's like little hot springs everywhere, and that is basically how you heal. So you walk into a hot spring and it forces you to sit there. And if you walk out too early, it doesn't heal you. But if you sit there for like a full 5 seconds, then it'll kind of like replenish your health. But
Nice.
there's also a really cool rhythm mechanic in Mother 3 that allows you to get sequential hits. And the story, man, the story is so it's I just really, really love Mother 3. And I mean, I've talked about it on the show, but it's really awesome. And it again, it takes the great things of the Mother franchise and just brings them forward even more. But yeah, I think as for Earthbound, I think it's definitely an awesome game, and I think a lot of people have enjoyed playing along with us over the past month, and it's been a really good time. So should we head into our voicemail? We've got one voicemail and we've got one email.
Yeah.
Should we do that? Let's
do that, and we can talk some more about it after in a couple moments too. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's I'm gonna play this this voicemail first.
Okay.
Hey, Dad, this is Brian calling in about the Retro Rewind episode. I've been playing Earthbound this last month and have really enjoyed it. I'll just leave my quick thoughts here. This is my first time playing through any of the Mother Earthbound games. So it was a real treat to sort of immerse myself into the game, and I love all the dialogue of all the different, stumbling into different people and, exploring the different corners of the different towns and hearing what all the people had to say. I just one of you, maybe it was Zach or Justin, I can't remember, said that, you know, if we talk about games moving forward that we want the next generation to play as sort of an example of here's sort of the best games from these generations. I certainly think that Earthbound should be in that mix in terms of, you know, SNES games that just over time just really hold up, and loved playing it on the 3DS. Been meaning to pick it up on the Wii U, but I think just having it on the 3DS and being able to take it with me on the go was just a real fit me a lot better. So loved the game. Really glad that you guys did this because it introduced me to this great new game, and I'm so glad that you did so. Thanks.
Right on. Well, thank you, Brian, for that. I just like a couple of different things here. The first thing I thought was that, first of all, I'm just super glad. You know, this is something that I really just love doing with our fans. You know, to have the community come out and say, "Hey guys, this is awesome. We absolutely should play this." You know, and picking some of these great games. Again, you know, his comments really have lit a fire under my butt to finish this game. And I think, again, the mechanics get in the way of the story sometimes. With
absolutely, it does too. I agree with that.
And the people who love this game are the people who are able to get through that and really experience the entire story, right? And I think that is one of my biggest things about that, is just that it is worth it pays off, right? To get through that story. And I think that is what is really my impression of Earthbound overall is, and I just want to play more of it and get through that, because it's to the second point that I have written down here. It's actually one of the first things he said, but the dialogue in this game is just so good. It is on point all the time. It's so hilarious. It's like, you know, very sort of like break the fourth wall, you know, that kind of thing, which is really great. I love it. Fuzzy pickles all the way, you know, like just so many weird things.
There's something just very uniquely special about this game, and I think it's challenging to define exactly what it is, like to pinpoint, like this is the thing that Earthbound that makes it so special that every game producer now needs to put in their game. It's a secret sauce, right? But there's something in it that's quintessentially difficult to pinpoint. But also, like, you know, when you think of Earthbound itself is also becoming a way of describing other games, right? I heard you say this, Zach, when you described Citizens of Earth. You said it's very Earthbound-esque, right? Yep. They're you know. So what does Earthbound-esque mean to you?
It's it's that sort of this, again, the setting I think is important when talking about them. Other, you know, sort of the small town community, or, you know, there's like an RPG that takes place in a sort of small town Americana sort of town, right? I think that's an important piece. It touches on what we call in the therapy world the soft emotions, right? Where there are themes there where it's not afraid to talk about some of those things, and to address those in a way that is genuine, you know, and endearing. I think that's an important part of it. And again, like Citizens of Earth, I found it was interesting too, because it takes things that are very mundane, almost not mundane, maybe it is the word I want to use, but and creates something magical about them. It's almost like a tall tale sort of thing, where it's like, here is this classic sort of, you know, in Citizens of Earth, it's like, here is a baker, and he is the most amazing baker and heals his party with his cinnamon buns and whatever, right? Like, right? It's like, let's take this story and then create a legend around it, but the legend is still within, you know, small town USA.
Yeah,
it's really cool. And that to me is what Earthbound specifically When I say something's Earthbound-esque, that's what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. I like that. A couple of things I want to talk about that Brian mentioned in his voicemail that I think are really important. Brian, I love the statement that you made regarding you could have played it on the Wii U, but you played it on the 3DS. And I think this game, I mean, sure, whatever system that you have, play it on whatever you want, right? But I was so happy when I heard this game was coming to the 3DS, right? Because I think there is a portableness to it that allows you to kind of go where you need to and play on the go. And for me, it allowed me to kind of pick away at it in more of these confined little moments, which I really appreciate. Like, I'm happy that, I've got another trip coming up. I can pop out Earthbound and bang out another 12 hours on a flight. So I'm really excited for that. That's awesome. The other thing I liked about, for Brian, I would definitely agree that this is a game that you have to introduce your kids to. I would definitely think that this is a game that I want to introduce like my daughters to when they're, late teens possibly, right? Because I think the emotional depth, the emotional substance that's there, and I think also to Zach's point as well, some of the controls, some of those like things that you kind of as a gamer you have to like put on your big boy or girl pants and like just work through to finish the game. You have to deal with those kind of things. So I think introducing it to a kid too young, it just won't have the weight that it would normally if you introduce them at a later age. But definitely this is a sit down. You have to play this from a from a parent. I think from a parenting perspective, you have to play this. And I think as an adult or a teenager to young adult, there is so much depth in this as well. So cool. I can't wait to show this to my girls.
Right on.
Jesse, how you doing over there, buddy?
Doing good.
Awesome.
I really don't have a lot to add. Just again, I didn't get very far. But one thing I did want to throw in, because you're making the comparison with Citizens of Earth, is it's like Earthbound with a job system. Which some people like the job system. I, for one, have never enjoyed job systems except for Dragon Quest 9, and I've said this before, but I didn't like Final Fantasy 3 or 5 or any other. What was the Bravely Default? I tried that one, didn't like it. All because of the job system.
Yeah. It's an interesting. Yeah, it's
But
super cool.
A lot of people dig those things.
Yeah, right on. We got an email as well about this from Chris. I'll read this. It says, "Hey dads, I've been playing through Earthbound for the first time ever. I'm currently in Forside, having just gotten poo and beat the rat in the sewer. I am a 4-year-old, laughing at poo. My biggest question is Forside Department Store. This was hard. I had no bottle rockets, and Paula had the Franklin badge. What are your thoughts on the department store blackout? I'm not done with the game, but this was the hardest part so far. Also, can you guys rank the 4 characters for me?" From Chris. So to answer your question about the Forside department store, I don't think any of us have gotten that far.
No, we haven't.
This game does get hard though, right?
Yeah.
It's and I think that to a certain point, an appreciation for difficult games has been lost, I think, and so to a certain extent, and so I'm kind of, you've got to push through it. I don't really have anything other than that to say about that, unfortunately. As for the second part, though, ranking the characters, honestly, I think it's kind of in the order of appearance for me. Like, as far as again, as much as Pooh's name always makes me laugh because I'm a 4-year-old, it's I still think Ness is absolutely number 1, Paula number 2, Jeff number 3, because he's the nerdy sort of genius kid. I don't know. What do you think, Justin?
There's
a sort of endearing. I love the relationship between Ness and Paula.
Sorry, who's there's Ness, Paula, who's the third one? Sorry, Jeff,
the nerdy kid with the glasses.
I like Jeff. I liked his relationship. I thought he was fun. I really liked him too. But I kind of agree with your order as well, but I'd put Jeff and Paula, I'd more swap.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What about you, Jesse?
I don't have an opinion. I don't. I think I might have gotten Paula in my Wii U playthrough, but I don't think I ever got to Jeff and Pooh.
Right on. Cool. Right on. Well, with that, gentlemen, is there anything else that we're missing here? This is kind of a short episode, but my mom wants to go to sleep too. So.
Yeah, I would just say that I think this is a definite game that you have to play. This is, and I'm also glad
it's hard to squeeze in a month.
Well, that's a good point though, Jesse. I'm also glad that we've talked about before, like the mass consumption of games. I'm also kind of happy that we're not trying to mass consume this game, right? Because there's a lot of really awesome, cool things about this game as well that you don't want to just be like, well, I finished it, because I think there's a lot that, like, I found times I would play it, I feel like it really kind of either it was a difficult level, challenging, kind of got my brain thinking, or just like emotionally impactful, that I was like, I just need to come back to this in a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the thing, right? It's like you walk away and then come back, and yeah, for sure. Right on. So that is our Retro Rewind episode number 5 for Earthbound. Justin,
yep.
This month we brought back what was it? Revenge of the Rejects?
Yeah, Revenge of the Rejects, which was kind of like the, hey, if they didn't win in the Retro Rewind, let's bring back another group of games and let's see how they did. And this time for May, your Retro Rewind game, if you haven't already been following us on social media and unaware of it, it is Super Metroid. So it's going to be found on both your Wii U, your 3DS, or if you still have an old school Super NES sitting around, kick it back and play that as well. So super excited to be playing this one.
A game that is significantly shorter than the previous one.
Yes, and Pokemon. So
yeah, back-to-back RPGs, man.
Yeah.
Let's not do that for a couple months.
A couple other things I want to direct people to. Guys, we obviously spent some time talking about Earthbound, but I really do want to direct you over to our YouTube channel, where I just a moment ago released our History of Earthbound video publicly for everyone to be able to have access to. If you were a Patreon supporter, you got early access to this. But it is now accessible for you, everyone, to take a go at. So please do take a look at that. Big shout again to our Patreon supporters who helped us to unlock it, and obviously out to Cass Lush for the awesome work that he does. Now, you're like...
Before you
go
go
ahead.
on, I always, when I post the articles at VG Tribune that posts the episode to the audio feeds, I also embed the YouTube video to the article. So,
nice.
So check that out too.
As well, I want to say too, we've got a new member of the Retro Rewind team, don't we, Justin?
We do. Do you want to tell them what's going on?
Yeah, well, you're the one who set this up, dude. But we've got Adam from Megadads. He is going to provide us with some sweet artwork every single month. Basically, you can head over right now
If you are a Patreon subscriber right now, you can literally go in, and in the update that we did for Earthbound, you will find a link. This is a custom, one-of-a-kind artwork that Adam from Megadads has done for our show. He is going to do custom artwork every single month for the Retro Rewind that we are doing, and he's actually doing a back catalog as well. So he's actually going to do the old ones for us.
I just saw his Link to Awakening.
His Link to Awakening one is great.
It's sick. So, guys, if you're like, oh, I really want those kind of things, simple. Head over to patreon.com, subscribe as little as $1 a month, and you can get all those awesome things. You can vote on the Patreon, you can vote on the Retro Rewind. You can get the video. You can get the artwork. That's a steal of a deal. So, yeah. Do those things.
Right on. I just had an amazing idea that I'm going to run by you guys real quick.
After the show, I presume?
Yeah, after the show. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to paste it at the top because I think it goes perfectly. So, yeah. Anyway, I think that this is so thank you, everybody. So, as well, are we putting these? Yeah. Well, anyway. Super Metroid is our next one.
Yep.
Awesome stuff. We're excited for Adam to be a part of the team as well. So, right on. As well, you're probably by now listening to some awesome music that I've put in at the end of the show. All of our music from this is from ocremix.org. Huge thanks to them, as well as to both Adam and Carter Johnson for our artwork for Nintendo Dads. You guys are amazing. As well, you can head check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Nintendo Dads. You can find us at YouTube and Twitch. Look for us, Nintendo Dads. You can call and leave us a voicemail. It's 929-25-NTADS, 929-256-3237. And of course, if you want to change the world, ladies and gentlemen, which, I mean, that's priority number one, head over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Written reviews are even better. And of course, you can find us and subscribe at iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and of course, VGTribune.com. For me, for Justin, and for Jesse, we'll see you next time. Fuzzy Pickles.
Fuzzy Pickles.
Boop. All right, good job. Nice and clean. That was a 40-minute.